I'm really, really excited for this episode and this discussion. I'm so grateful for Syd for making some time to join me in today. I'm really excited because I've been following Syd now for a little while on LinkedIn. I know that she's active on other platforms too, but that's the main one where I've come to interact with her. And I just love, and I said this to her before we hit record, the proximity and the rawness and just the feeling and the expression in a lot of the things that she shares. And I know that she has a really exciting and interesting story to share. So I'm really excited to dive into that and learn more from Syd's perspective. So maybe that's a good place to start. Tell me a little bit about your journey that got you to where you are right now.
Sure. I'll start with where I am now. I'm an agency owner. I serve clients across the country as well as the entire world for certain projects. And we do everything from website to video, social media, copywriting, branding, all the fun stuff of marketing. But what really is rooted in it all is storytelling and how to create these raw connections with our audience through all of those media formats, as well as an experience as we watch and consume those types of things. Um, like you said, I do have a very interesting story. I was studying at the University of Minnesota. I was in the Carlson School of Business, one of the top public business schools in the entire United States. My education was funded for me, and I was unhappy and very lonely there. I was studied for a total of a year and a half, but I couldn't find my place. I couldn't find people I could really connect with. I found a few really good homies, don't get me wrong, lifelong friends, but really I didn't feel as if I belonged there, but I don't think I recognized that in the moment. When you're in deep, you have no idea. And so there's two things that happened to me that really changed my life. And I'll start with this one. I've always been a traveler adventurer. And so I was on a trip during a long weekend to South Carolina. My sister was thinking about moving to that city, and we had a great time. We stayed with our old neighbors. We were just driving around waiting for a reservation at a cool restaurant in one of the higher end neighborhoods of Charleston. And it was just to view the houses. One of our favorite pastime activities to look at nice houses and dream, And we were driving, and there was this trailer with a school bus attached in front of it. It was a colorful trailer, and there was like 3 or 4 people sitting outside of the trailer. And they were like, the only way I can explain this is that they were frolicking. Like they had toys and they were just playing, but these are adults. Don't get me wrong. There was a one wheeler, if you've ever seen those, wakeboard looking things sitting out. The back of the trailer was open. I could see lights coming out of the trailer. And as we slowly approached this, we were very curious, of course, but this man in a yellow dress, as we drive by, says, hang loose, hang loose. It's just like these adults are out here playing. I want to know more, but we kind of keep driving, none of my business, right? But when we get to the front of the school bus, there's a astronaut with silent disco equipment hanging around the astronaut's neck, like hundreds of headphones. And that's when I was like, okay, stop the car. We need to figure out what's going on here. And I wish I could show you a visual to really sell this. Maybe we can add it in later. um, we get out, and they were just the coolest people I've ever met. The man in the yellow dress was the most Florida man I have ever met. And they were out there after a session of kiteboarding, this sport I'd never heard of. It sounded pretty wild. There's a sail in the sky. You're on what's basically a wakeboard, and you power yourself with the wind. And I was just like, that sounds cool as heck. And we basically hung out with them for probably 2.5, 3 hours before our reservation. And they were just having fun playing, and they told us about this. And I almost felt when we were there that this moment might change my life, because the way these people are living their lives is obviously a reality for some adults here. And it's so different from everything I've been seeing and what I've perceived to be my future. So I was very curious, and I ended up, one of the people there was a woman named Jenny. I stayed in contact with her because just way too curious about this whole entire thing. I went back to Minnesota, but I just couldn't forget about this. It was in my mind at night. couldn't stop thinking about it. And really what I couldn't stop thinking about is I want to try this extreme sport called kiteboarding. So that's what I wanted to do. And Jenny knew that. So she invited me down back south to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, where I joined a crew of kiteboarders on a trip there. And I skipped classes. I skipped an exam to go. I went by myself for the first time. I took a flight all by myself, and I could confirm after that trip I was hooked on the idea of kiteboarding and also a community of kiteboarding. The most unique, welcoming people, and it finally felt like a place that I belonged because this group of people would do anything to make a kiteboarding session happen. So, okay, I come back home and I'm still in university and the next semester's coming up, and I'm just thinking, Jenny, when I was there, she told me, I will teach you if you come down here how to kiteboard. And that is an expensive sport to learn. It's like more than maybe like $100 an hour for a lesson, whatever. The gear is beyond expensive. There's strategies to figure that all out, which I've now in my belt. So I was like, wow, this is an opportunity for me. And what if I just left here? Because that finally felt like a place I belonged, and this doesn't. And after debating back and forth for months, I was finally like, you know what? I'm going to send it. And at this point, I was already practicing entrepreneurship. I've technically owned a business since 18 years old. As a marketing intern for a construction company, it was just better for payroll, taxes, whatever, to have an LLC. And that was a place where I created my own role. And that was where I really started head on leadership, marketing. Here we go. So I was like, I can figure it out. If I go south, I'm going to dive headfirst into my business like I've always wanted to. And it is truly one of the reasons I've never felt like I belonged at the universities, because all of these people are training to be employees, and there's no way that's going to be me. I've known it's just not for me. So I eventually send it down south. I sublease my apartment, I leave. But the one thing that really convinced me to go was the fact that I have had ACL surgery and I had a torn meniscus. Because of that, my recovery was extra brutal because I couldn't bear weight for I think 6 or 8 weeks. And I lost all strength in my leg. And that first week of recovery, I don't remember because it was the most traumatic thing I've probably ever been through. I couldn't sleep. I was in pain. Pain medication is obviously really tough to have, but that journey of recovery, it's also one of the reasons I didn't really feel like I fit into the universities, because that was part of my recovery at university. And I felt what it was like to roll around in a wheelchair, have people look at me, feel disabled, not be able to feed myself, not use the bathroom by myself, and lose my identity of this free-spirited individual who could take care of herself. I remembered what that was like. And so when it came down to it, my ultimate push factor was, you are able now. You are recovered. You are healthy. You are young. You don't have commitments. Really, go send it. So that's what I did. And that depth of that feeling is what convinced me. And that depth and emotion made a change for me. So that is a part of every marketing move I make, because I know the power of it, because it's changed my life. So I moved to South Carolina. I pick up a couple clients. I'm grinding. I'm working more than 12-hour days. I go to sleep thinking about business. I wake up thinking about business. It's honestly really unhealthy. I don't have a gym membership because I'm trying to save money. I'm sharing a room with my best friend who I convinced to come down with me. And just honestly struggling, but living wildly, because now I'm learning how to surf on the East Coast. I've never been a surfer girly. I've never been an ocean girl. It was just a complete transformation for me, but it was so thrilling because there's so much newness. And I was so convinced I needed to make it work for myself, because there's this lifestyle that I need to fund and I need to be free so that I can choose to go kite when it's windy and take a trip here and let this camera bring me to Egypt and Brazil and, West Africa, wherever else I've been in the past year. It's been a pretty incredible journey of no doubt a bunch of grit and resilience. And I guess one final note of the piece that's missing on this story is I had one big project that I took on to prove to myself I could do it. And it was my first short film called Windbound, Charleston's Women Kiteboarders. This short film was proof to myself that I could, one, be a filmmaker, and two, be a legit kiteboarder in the community. And there's two problems as a woman or a minority. It's common to feel like you don't belong somewhere because you don't see yourself in that place. Like 95% of the kiteboarders on the Charleston beaches were male. So it was very intimidating to approach the beaches and go feel like I could go try and do this. I don't look like any of them, and I sure as hell don't want them to tell me what to do or to judge me. So there's one, and there's like hardly any award-winning woman filmmakers either. So those are the two things. So I was like, okay, if I can take on this project, do a good job, get the community together. The reason that I could do it so well, so effectively, and tell the stories because I was living it. I'm living this. The whole theme of the short film is if you don't see yourself somewhere, how are you supposed to feel like you belong? This is our moment to show women that kiteboarding is a possibility for them and they can do it well because look at us. Us women are doing it. If we can do it, you can do it. So that was kind of the theme of the film, and it was great. I had a film premiere, and it traveled the world in the Wild Wind Film Festival, and I'm on track to do another one right now. So that project really changed everything as well. It was a great portfolio piece. I didn't make any money. I got I got some sponsorships, just small community sponsorships to sponsor the film premiere. But in the middle of filming that, it took up so much of my time that I couldn't focus on making money and finding new clients and like grinding for hours on something else when I had to make this work. So I started couch hopping because I didn't want to have to afford rent. I was already paying like less, I was already paying half of what rent should be. But I said, if I can have space financially to work on this, then I can do it well. And that's what I did. And since then, I can confirm that I no longer have to couch hop and I have a team helping me with my agency, and all the other endeavors I'm working on are feeling much more possible because of that grind and that sacrifice. And it was hard. It was hard.
Dang, that's crazy. It's like a whole lifetime of experiences just in that little moment. And I'm sure there's a lot that I haven't even been able to cover yet
Yeah, exactly.
into the
Yeah, I'm sure.
experience and that kind of thing. That's incredible. There's so many questions that I have and so many things that I'm curious about. I think one place where I'd love to start and just hear your perspective is with where you're at right now, what do you feel like your mission is? What are you really trying to do or build towards?
I think my mission as a person and in this life is to create a sense of belonging for other creators and dreamers who have these big, amazing dreams, but feel so lonely in that pursuit, like I did. I mean, like in college and when I left in the grind, I felt so alone during all of it because once again, you're walking a path that no one's traveled and there's no blueprint. All that fun stuff. You're doing it alone and it's up to you. Your success is individually up to you. It is so lonely, and I'm at this point an age where I should be out in the world making so many friends and making these bonds for life with people my age, but I put myself in this position that is so disconnected from everybody my age for the most part. But I'm really trying to put out into the world what I'm seeking myself as a resource, and that's the best kind of resource and tool to build. So community of belonging and understanding for those people who are seeking more.
I really like that and I resonate with that a lot, especially from the perspective of building something meaningful that's a path of entrepreneurship or art or whatever it is often quite a lonely endeavor because it's
Yeah.
like I see the vision, but no one else does, and a lot of other elements besides that as well. What has helped you, do you think, to dream so big? And I'm sure that you might say, well, people might say, oh, well, so she doesn't have like a mansion and she doesn't have all these blah blah blah, but you have such a wealth of experiences and things that you've done, and the world that you see is a lot wider than I think some other people see, where it's like I'm punching into work, I'm at my 9 to 5, I go home and I put on a TV show, and even the thought, of doing all these things that you just mentioned, of like, oh, I went and traveled to all these places. I did this stuff. I just gave up on my college and my studies because I felt like this was the thing. I feel like a lot of people don't dream that big. What kind of helps you to see so much possibility, to dream so big?
Yeah. There's two things that come to mind initially. One, actually three. I've always been a very curious individual. That's innate within me. And so I'm always seeking beyond what I can see at face value. Like what's behind the curtains here. And that leads me into two is my earlier internship, or when I started working with a construction company. It's a small, messy company. They're doing millions, almost 100 million in revenue this year. Not this year, the year I joined. And I'm seeing how messy behind the scenes is, and what, like, this is created by genuine people. And the owner is like, he's not any more intelligent than I am. I see the way he interacts with his team and on the phone. And if he can do it, I can do it. If if someone is doing something in the world, I realized that that is done through human grit. It's done through hard, handy work. So seeing that, like the small operational behind the scenes of a big result and something we publicly might see as like, that's the big dogs, But hey, like they're just people behind the scenes. And when you approach every conversation, I like to say that like the CEO is has the same mental dialogue as you do. Do I look okay today? I miss this person. Clean my teeth. Did that sound weird? We're all thinking this. We're all such internal and self conscious beings that we're all the same. We're all just humans. As much as these people in England like to have their table manners, and it's like, no, we're just messy people. The third thing that kind of encourages me was my surgery, and being in such a dark place and being without my abilities. A short-term disability really humbled me, but it made me realize that we're fragile, dog. Like this tomorrow is a possibility, it's not a guarantee. What would you do today? I would go skydive. I would go take a flight to Hawaii that I've been wanting to do forever. Like once I step by step started going after these small hidden pipe dreams that I've had since a young girl. Or the things that you shove down because like, yeah, there's no way. Like, stop, be practical. All of those things I've had. And at this point, I've proven to myself I've achieved those things. I've achieved some of my pipe dreams. Like I'm a sponsored kiteboarder by a shop, not because I'm like an incredible kiteboarder, but because I have athletic ability and an ability to market that very well. I position myself properly to be a sponsored kiteboarder. I I learned how to surf. That was a dream forever. I've traveled the world. I'm speaking 4 languages now because I put the time and the grit in. That was a dream of mine. Let's take a second and appreciate how far I've come. And like when you climb one mountain, one project, one journey you've been on, you've climbed that mountain. It's like, okay, I did that, right? Now I'm looking at the other mountain off in the distance. It doesn't look that much higher than this mountain. Like realistically, if I climb this one, I could probably push a little harder and climb that one. And in fact, since I've climbed this mountain, I saw the boulders, and this first time I tripped on them. I'll know how to stand up faster on the next one, and I'll know how to avoid some of them on the next one. Maybe I could do it a little more efficiently and go a little further, right? So it's like Yes, these dreams, they're huge, but the fact that someone else has done it, okay, that makes it a little more possible. And the fact that that's really big, but what leads up to that are the steps. That makes it a little more tangible. And, if you've ever read The Atomic Habits, it just compounds what you work on and where you put your mind. And I would say that's my answer.
That's really powerful stuff. I don't know, it's electric and it's energizing. And I think it's the kind of energy more people need to see and to feel of like, it's something that I've been reflecting on a lot recently of, I think, or I guess I don't think we fully understand or appreciate how many possibilities are out there and how much you're actually able to do. Like the amount of things that we just take for granted and we just go through the motions when like there's a whole world out there, it's crazy, but breaking that thought pattern, that mental habit of this is just how it is and it couldn't possibly be different, that's really hard. And I think one of the hard parts when people start to have some sort of inkling that there can be more to their lives is uncertainty and self-doubt. I'm like, okay, I have this big dream. There is this mountain I want to climb. I've seen someone else do it, but I can't do it because I don't have the experience. I don't know if I can. There's always these voices that we have in the back of our head. They're like, yeah, but okay, I see that Syd dropped out of college, but I couldn't do that because my parents this and that, and I've invested 2 years, and there's always something, right? So how do you navigate uncertainty and self-doubt?
Mm. Well, one, by knowing that everybody's dealing with that. And two, gosh, sometimes it really swallows you whole. Like it'll take you down. I've dealt with anxiety since high school, and I've had a couple of anxiety attacks. And a lot of that was centered around these thought patterns of self doubt. And like, oh my gosh, they don't like me, and they don't talk to me anymore. They hate me. Sure that like if they don't like me anymore, why would someone else appreciate being my friend if I can't even hold on to this friend? It's taken me into, again, some dark places, but that's kind of when a lot of wisdom that I've found in reading and in literature has really helped me navigate that. Like, I've always read self help books, but one that comes to mind, and especially answering this, is the Four Agreements. One of the agreements is, I believe, it's not to make assumptions. And we do a lot of that. We do a lot of assuming and generalizations because that is a shortcut in our brain to save ourselves energy, um, and not have to think about things so in depth. And so we make a lot of assumptions about people and about organizations and where we can and we can't go. But yeah, I would say these books, my gosh, The Four Agreements, The Power of Now, when you're down in a rabbit hole of self doubt, you just have to take these grounding methods like breath work. And it's been a lot of different things, but small steps at the end of the day. If you can achieve this, you can achieve something slightly bigger. And, it's just this back and forth of I put this into the world and this is what it gives back to me. Okay, I'm understanding. I can do this. I can do that. I can do that.
And I think that's a beautiful response. And the part that I like the most is actually the part where you were talking about how much that literature and those self-help books have changed your life. I think that some people kind of clown on reading self-help books. They're like, it's all just like campy, it's the same advice, whatever. And if you're reading poor self-help books, it's probably true. But I know for myself, like I was in a place maybe 5 years ago that was definitely not very positive. It was quite dark, a lot of depression and that kind of thing. And it kind of just came to this point where I realized that the pain of changing will now be less than the pain of staying the same. And I think having that awareness throughout your life, whenever you're faced with a decision to either do something that stretches you a little, that's a little big, a little scary, or to stay the same, is incredibly important. And you have to be honest with yourself, right? Like if you have a big dream, it might involve something, a big decision, like dropping out of college. Like, is that what you really want? Would you be okay with that decision? You know? Because if you're not okay with what that decision can bring, don't immediately make the choice. But if that dream compels you, even if it scares you, then that's probably a choice that you should listen to, right? But it's kind of, you have to paint this vision in your mind of what kind of life would I ideally want to live? well, when I get to the end of the path, am I going to have regret or not? Am I proud of that decision? And if you can really own that, and you can have that awareness, that makes such a big difference, even if it's just a really small thing. It's huge.
Yeah. And like, you have to listen to your gut. I mean, we say that, it's some voodoo, whatever, like your gut and what you feel in your heart and in your gut truly has meaning and it's worth something. You should think about it for a second because, yeah, our gut, we take in subconscious signals, and that is why our gut can tell us something's dangerous faster than our brain can comprehend that, right? I saw this opportunity. I was processing this opportunity, and my like gut knew it before I did. It was like when I was deciding to leave or not to leave, it was like it was keeping me up at night. I want to so bad. My biggest, wildest dreams, like, what the heck? That is like, I can see it now. Like, there's an actual literal path I could take to potentially make it there. And then it comes down to, I can always come back to this. I can always continue this degree, you know, but you can't take this. The train's here. So you might want to try it because you can always come back home.
And that's another important thing. I don't know who talked about this. It might have been Jeff Bezos. So I don't remember where he talks about like the two-way door. That there's a lot of doors that you can like walk through, and then if you don't like it, you can just leave again. We think that so many things are just completely final and there's no other way to navigate it. But actually, you can take the step in, test the water, feel out like, and then just turn around and close the door again. You can totally do that. Kind of, especially listening to your story and the perspective that you have on the decisions that you make and the life that you want to live. One of the things that I find helpful to reflect on when making, especially big decisions in my life, is the question of what story would I rather be able to tell? What adventure would I rather have? Would I rather have exactly what I've been doing and the comfort that that brings, or would I rather be able to say in 5 years, like I did that? And it was a disaster for the first year, but let me tell you, it was so cool. I am so grateful that I made that choice. And sometimes I think that's just the
Absolutely.
question you need to ask. Like, what's the coolest thing I could possibly do right now? That? Okay.
Yeah.
Why not?
Let's
Why
get
not
the
be?
lore. Yeah.
Let's get, yeah, lore maxing. I like that. I like that. That's
Yeah. Like, what can
fantastic.
I tell my grandkids someday? And they'd like jaw drop, you know?
And they just wouldn't believe it. Like, there's
Absolutely.
no, there's no way grandma would have done that. Absolutely not.
Right? That's what I'm
No,
chasing, huh?
100%. That's the one. Well, I want to pivot this a little from the discussion we've been having and talk a little bit about the business side of things as well. And before diving into that more fully, I know that you are a very creative person through the things that you create, especially through your filmmaking and all of that kind of stuff that you do. One of the things that I see a lot of people struggle with is how to balance art and business, how to
Mm-hmm.
create something that's personally meaningful to you while
Mm-hmm.
also, having some way to sustain yourself and hopefully get more eyeballs on what you're creating, right?
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that balance between creating something that's beautiful, that's meaningful to you and to others, while also making sure that you have a profitable business?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the beginning, like most entrepreneurs, you're taking any work you can get just to pay the bills and keep yourself afloat for a little bit. But as you spend some time in it, you're learning like, wow, I really dread working with this person. Like, there's one person in particular I can recall in which it was just meaningless and it was difficult to work with this individual, and she's in an industry that I don't even care about, and what I'm writing I don't even care about. My output was so terrible for that route. I mean, like, it was good enough to be getting paid for it. I mean, I was getting paid nothing, hardly anything, right? But I hated that. And if I'm going to do good work, it's because I'm going to feel it. Like, I'm going to like what I'm doing and I'm going to feel aligned with it. So here comes the part of finding the projects that align with who you are and your mission and your goals. And at the beginning, you can't do that. You just don't have that flexibility. But as time goes on, you need to get serious about turning certain things away. I don't want to work with this realtor because she's in the middle of a brutal city And like the content I create for her is just about market updates in the real estate world. I don't give a shit. But but there's this keynote speaker who speaks on brilliance and empowering teams to work harder and collaborate better. His mission is to ignite the light in others. That is so good. I like that, right? That is aligned with my mission. It might not be the same, but these missions are cousins, right? So that's great. I've afforded the chance to have these leads and pick and choose slightly between what work kind of lights something up within me. Now, at the beginning as well, I was creating art regardless and super terrible sleep habits and, caffeine up and down the walls. But that at the beginning, I was so curious about, like, I just couldn't stop my hand from, trying another edit in a different song and making this happen and YouTubing how to do it, right? It was just like I was following this path that I was going in creatively. Honestly, my advice to any creative person is don't shut that light off. Like while you're going, see where it takes you because you can see what you can really do creatively. you know, Eventually, like, we got to kind of regulate our sleep a little bit and maybe set a hard deadline at, 1 a.m. and call it quits. But it is important to discover and dive deep into that art. But there's a way to like filter out these projects that you might work on that feel like art anyway. And maybe you look at it on paper and right now it doesn't feel like art. But when you're in it, I'll be like, oh, really cool for me. That's a really cool sound effect I can add when that light comes over his shoulder in that one shot. Boom. Like, oh, that was a fun little, that's art. And it comes in many forms because creativity, it's a skill that you can work on. Creativity is the combination of two things that previously didn't really belong together. Like the people who made spaghetti tacos. That was creative. All it was putting these two concepts that don't belong together, putting them together, and let's see what happens. It's like that is a way in which you can practice creativity as well if you do find yourself in a slump.
Yeah, remixing is incredibly important. I think that sometimes for myself, I've gone through this like quasi like creative aesthetic thing where I'm like, my idea must be completely original and no one must have ever thought of it ever before, like this
No
kind of
way.
this weird thing, which doesn't happen and it just makes your life harder than it needs to be. But one of the things that I'm kind of getting out of what you're saying, and I'd love to hear your input on this too, is from what I see a lot, when you start and you identify something that you love, that you enjoy doing, or even just that you're interested in. Let's say it's like drawing or something, right? When you start with drawing, you are essentially a blank slate with infinite creativity and potential because you have all of these amazing ideas and things that you really want to do, but you lack the skill to actually be able to do it, right?
Yes, the
So you can
skill
you can
gap.
you can
Mm-hmm.
create tons of art, but no one's going to care because your skill is not good enough. So what you
Yeah.
then will most likely do is you'll pick up skills. You'll learn the basics, the fundamentals, the mechanics of how to be good at that particular thing. And what happens as you do that is your creativity and your perspective narrows quite a lot because you're so focused on, oh my gosh, I have to make sure that my brushstroke is like this and my lines have got to be like that
Mm-hmm.
and my perspective has to be
Yeah.
so and so, like that kind of thing, and you actually create less art, but you become better at what you do. But as
Mm-hmm.
you improve your skill, as you become more valuable in what you do, your creativity can expand again because now you have the
Yes.
foundations and the mechanics and everything that you need. And then
Mm-hmm.
that creativity is amplified like, 100, a million times or whatever. And you become far more valuable because you've taken that creativity, you squeezed it through that skill press, and now you've come out
Yeah.
the other end. And I think
Yeah.
that sometimes entrepreneurs, when they are very artistic and creative, they want to just make something because they enjoy making it. And that's awesome. But you haven't developed the skills yet, A, for it to be any
Mm-hmm.
good, like just being completely honest, right? It's probably not
Yeah.
that good. And it's also not interesting or valuable to people. You have to develop the skills and take in all these perspectives and then create something that's authentic and is an expression of you and your creativity and that kind of thing. I don't know what you think about that kind of model of creativity, but
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your insight.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. And when I was learning videography, for example, there was absolutely a skill gap. I was like, I know exactly what I want this to look like. And I go and I try and I try, and it's not working. And I've watched so many, I'm so frustrated because it doesn't look like I want it to look. That's the skill gap. And like, I didn't have a name for it at the time, but oh, that sucked, when you went through that. But then if you put in a daily practice, like at that time, I was running an account under a different business name. And my goal was to try and grow on Instagram. So I was trying to do the thing where you post like 5 times a week. So I posted 5 times a week a short video about, and it was like each time I did one of those videos, I was learning a new skill. I was out on YouTube and I was like, how do you do this in Premiere? How do you make this text transition in this way in Premiere? Every single day. And that work definitely was like exhausting, but truly on the other side of it, when I was empowered, because I know exactly what I want it to look like, and now I know exactly how to do it, that feels good. And like you do it, and it never looks exactly how you want it, I guess. I've never had anything look exactly how I want it. But when you at least take that leap and go after it, it's like you branch off into all these other things you find along the way. And it's quite a cool transformation to look back and see how far your skills have come. But then, when you do start to think like this is getting redundant, I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again, then I personally like to, switch up the formats. I'm doing something different every single day. I mean, as an agency owner, that's just how it goes. But some days I'm doing photos, some days I'm doing video, some days I'm developing a damn website, I'm coding. Wearing all these hats gives you such a unique perspective on things and be like, okay, I had just had the best idea for a video project while I am developing this website. Is that not wild? It happens. And I think that's one cool way to keep the spark alive.
I think even if, you're creating stuff to keep the lights on for a business, you need to have your own
Hmm.
little projects too. You need to do fun stuff. It's so important.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that you are passionate about, storytelling. You mentioned at the start how important that is to you, what you do, all that kind of thing. I want to get your perspective on, first of all, what makes a good story.
I think a good story makes us feel. And I actually did just write a LinkedIn post on this. So this is very fresh in my memory. But when we make people feel, it is more likely that they will remember, because when we feel, that is the same area of our brain, I believe it's the amygdala, that activates and helps us form memories better. That is why, like legends through history, through cultures, these stories are the things that last. No singular statistic, no fact, no textbook has made it as far as stories have passed through people, through generations. So emotion is a really important component of that, because that's the only way, an emotion of some kind is the only way to stop someone in their tracks. And I mean, I guess I'm not sure if surprise is considered an emotion, but you know, that made me stop and think. And that made me like actually think about my life choices today. Or that made me laugh. That was funny. Like, I'm going to tell that to my mom. I'm going to repeat that in my brain because I liked it, you know? So emotion's really important.
I agree. I think that fact will never have the ability to really connect with people that stories do. And that's why they're so powerful. And it's why when people do things like TED Talks, for example, they always include like, or they start with a story that sets the frame. And that's the
Yeah.
part you will usually remember because it's so powerful. It's why we remember and love movies and stuff so much too.
Yes.
Because of
Yes.
exactly that. I love that. Okay. So a good story requires you to generate feelings. So how do you build a story that does that? How do you build a good story?
Hmm. Well, there's different story formats that you could follow. There's the classic rising and falling action, and then there's a different format that's up and down, up and down. If there's a way to engage the reader or the viewer emotionally or as a supporter, there's there, there's certain psychology triggers that get a reader, a viewer, consumer involved. You just want to get them involved in some way, right? So either they're involved because they're rooting for the underdog. That's a big one. Or they're involved because we've created a common enemy, like Alex Hermosi did with his recent successful book launch. His common enemy was the top 8 best sold books in the United States are politicians. So he created that as a common enemy. Let's beat out the politicians to be the best book in America, most sold book. Being a part of a community is also another big one. And that's one I really included in Windbound because it was a community of women and it was a film surrounding Charleston, the Charleston area. That's a very, small town feel. Everyone wanted to be a part of that story or watch that story. If you include someone in a story, they're going to be more likely to engage and watch and follow up on that. Yeah, I would look into like the 7. I mean, there's endless psychology triggers, but there's at least 7. Jeff Walker talks about them in his book called Launch, which isn't storytelling, but in a way.
I think that what you're pointing to, Annette, that I think is so powerful is that the best stories might be about whatever. The reader is kind of the main character, like because they become so invested and they're so interested in whatever it is that's
Yes.
happening. It's one of those. I think a good story, one of the things that it does is it kind of like freezes time in a sense. It takes you out of whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing or whatever you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling or experiencing, and it just takes you on a journey somewhere. And you suddenly
Exactly.
forget about all these things and you're just completely invested in whatever that thing is, whether it's rallying behind something
Totally.
simple like the example that you gave, or they might see something really cool like that movie, that video that you create, and be like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy cool. I could do that, or how cool is it that people are doing that,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
whatever the emotion is, right?
Reader
You're taking
first.
them you're taking them on that journey. You're taking them out of whatever they're doing in that moment, transporting them somewhere, making them feel like they're the center of the universe. I think that's such an important aspect of storytelling.
Yeah, and there's a certain strategy when working on branding and like story sub brands. It's called the hero's journey. Any marketing piece, anyone working in marketing should look into this, the hero's journey. And what it is you're positioning the consumer, the client, as the hero of the story, and we are the sidekick to their story of success. And I would highly recommend anyone listening to take a look into that.
Yeah, that's a really powerful one. 100%. That's a fantastic suggestion. Is there a particular aspect of storytelling that just gets you really excited? You're like, oh my gosh, I love telling these kinds of stories, or this particular element of storytelling I just love, or
Mhm.
something like that.
Mhm. Stopping people in their tracks and totally changing their perspective on the world. We're all in our own worlds, of course. And if we never travel anywhere, we're especially in just a tiny, tiny world. And because of that, our decisions and who we vote for and all of these things are influenced by that. And I just think, like, how could you not get the full picture? How could you not understand how someone is feeling? How could you not get on their level before you respond to them? Like, it's not about us. It's not about our little bubbles we live in. Like, there is a collective consciousness of this planet, and it is like our responsibility to craft and massage and mold this. So we have each a say in that. And I think that what really ignites me is the opportunity to change the world in a small way. I think that we all need more perspective and the opportunity to do that and do it effectively with video and visual effects and music. When it all comes, like, okay, especially in my filmmaking life, like when I can get that consumer out of their head in a completely different world to see things differently for just 20 minutes, whatever it is, that lights me up. That lights me up for sure.
That's it. That's just cool stuff. Just to transport people away, create something beautiful, and be able to just tell people, help them see the world differently. Like that's massive. I completely agree. Storytelling is one of those things that I have definitely not leveraged enough, that I want to leverage more in what I do online. I think one of the things that I personally have run into a lot, and I think other creators have as well, is okay, great. So you're telling me storytelling is so important and it's amazing and blah blah blah. Where do I find these stories? I don't do anything exciting enough with my life. Like,
Yeah,
why do I find stories that are worth telling? What kind of advice would you give to someone trying to find good stories to tell?
absolutely. That is something that I commonly hear. And yes, people think that they need to live these grand, amazing lives and do these crazy things like camp in the jungle with, people who've never touched iPhones. Like, no, no, that's not what makes a good story. What makes a good story has nothing to do with the actual content of the story. It's how you tell it. You need to be engaging and you need to read into how our mind absorbs these kinds of things. And seriously, every day, every single day that you live, there's a story to be told. So today, for example, let's see if I can come up with it on the spot because that's a sure test. I had a morning. I worked. I drove 3 hours from the Florida Keys to Boca Raton today, and on my drive, this blue car comes and like zooms past me and like cuts me off. And I kid you not, as he goes by, he has the bird out his window. And I have no idea if it's directed towards me because I didn't make any moves. Like I was just in one lane. I was doing the same thing. I'm lost. But he comes by and gives me the bird, and I immediately get like, what the what the what the fuck, dude? Like, why would you? There's no need for that. I didn't do anything. Is that even? And this is where like, don't make assumptions because who knows if that was even directed at me. But it pissed me off for a second, and then I was like, road rage has never helped anybody, Sid. So I continue to drive a little bit, but of course, here we go, and we approach this light, and as I'm driving, I'm going. It's my turn to turn left, and he's going straight. And I get to like park next to him at the light. And I look at him and I'm like, I have some choices here. What should I do? Should I ignore him? Should I make eye contact and make it awkward? Or should I give him the bird back? Ultimately, what I decided to do was give him the thumbs down because you've heard that this feels worse and it's like not violent. And that is what I did. I have no idea if he even saw it. But moral of the story is I could have gotten really angry at him, started yelling at him at the light. I could have rear-ended him just to get at him. But instead, I let that moment last 10 seconds, 10 seconds of my life. I'm not going to let him take any more of my life and my time and energy because I have much better things to focus on, like having a good drive and listening to my music that I enjoy. Why would I let him take anything from me? So there you go. There's a short story for the day. There was a lesson. There was interest. There was something that the consumer can relate to. I'm sure we've all been given the bird on the road once or twice. And maybe if I had some time and I sat down with that, I'd turn that into a whole full blown LinkedIn post. But there you go. There's a short story.
That's sick. I like that. That was really good. That was really good. As you were talking, I was thinking, like, do I have any interesting stories that I had today? Because it was a very standard day for me. I didn't do anything particularly exciting.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I could think of, right, is so I work at a 9 to 5. I work in sales, so I'm talking to people a lot. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things that we did today at our company was we did a webinar on a particular topic. It was how to help our clients find more clients for themselves, something along those lines, prospecting strategies, essentially. And so they're going through all these strategies. And I'll be honest, like I'm sitting in the webinar, but I'm sort of clocked out. I'm not really paying attention. and they start talking about taking some prospects and clients and doing things with them to try and help get their business or something along those lines,
Mm.
right? And one of the suggestions is you should take them to a concert, which I thought was okay, cool, like that'd be fun. And then after they said that, maybe 10 seconds later, someone in the chat just put, "That's a great idea as long as it's not a Coldplay concert, lol," or something like that.
Oh my God.
And I just died. But the cool thing that I remember them taking away from this is I still remember that person's name, and I still remember that particular moment of my day, which to me just
Mhm.
shows me how powerful humor can be and how memorable
Yeah.
you become. The second that
Yes.
you just, you're funny,
Yeah.
you're engaging, something like that, I'm gonna remember that dude's name probably tomorrow. And that's really
Yeah.
cool. And that to me just showed the power of humor. So there you go.
Exactly.
That's my little
There's a
story for
story.
today.
There's a story. And so much of our stories come from, honestly, like our thoughts and our internal dialogues. How we take on the world in itself is a story. There's so much to pull from. We're so abundantly filled with stories every single second of our lives. It's just if you can
100%.
recognize them as that or not.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I definitely need to be picking some more stories to tell online. So this is my kind of little reminder to myself. Um, okay, a couple of last things kind of around building a presence online, because I know that's something that you're actively busy with as you look to expand your presence, build your agency, all of that kind of stuff. As you're doing this, as you're building your brand, as you're sharing stuff online, how do you stay true to your personality and values while doing this, while posting online? So it's not just,
Hmm.
lame, soulless fluff that you're putting out there, but it actually is
Yeah.
like, that's Syd right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the first things is like some of the soul searching and journaling that I've done. I'm very in tune with who I am and what I'm after because of the challenges I've faced, but also like the learning I've had with the ancient wisdom and the books I've read. But having that, like, just give yourself, if you haven't yet, if you've never journaled or you rarely do, or you find that like that's a waste of time, it is not a waste of time. It is one of the best investments you could ever make into your journey on this planet because just doing that as a small practice, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, pick something. Like right now, I journal about my wins, how I got there, what I learned about it, my losses, or anything that made me feel. And like those are just like moments where I'm like, you know what, this would be something I might want to write about. And I might want to remember like 5 years down the line. I would love to like look back in this journal and read about this in more detail because we forget. Holy crap. And so that is one like practice that has helped me stay grounded in everything I do. I work in branding, so I have a personal brand guide, something that's written out in my mission and my values and examples of the things I write. Taking a second and like if you can afford it, have someone outside of you help you with that because sometimes when we're so close to everything, it's hard to see like what we do and the value that can bring and we can it's hard to see it clearly. And then when I actually write, like the actual tactical thing is I have an agent, ChatGPT agent, trained to the T on my voice and who I am and like my best performing posts, but also like the posts that are most important to me and like my stories. It has all these backgrounds so that it can help me strategize better with what I want to write, where I want to go in whatever kind of media. So that's like one real tactical thing to take a second and like actually train an agent. I'm actually working on an app right now to help with LinkedIn writing. I know there's a ton of tools out there. I've personally logged on to a couple of these tools for like a free trial and they're just so overwhelming. There's too many features. There's too many. Like I want I want a very simple tool. And so, some of the best products are the ones that you want to see in the world. And so I'm going to build one that I've been using it and I continue to improve it. I've not offered it to anyone. I have no idea if it will even work, but at least I know I will use it. So that's great. And it like takes a look at all of these factors that can keep you like all of these stories we have, sure, but that's just fluff. How can we put it through a filter of who we are or our niche? It's like there's this filter that we can push it through to make that connection of why does it make sense for my niche that I'm writing to right now? or my mission or whatever.
I think it's incredibly helpful, and that's a powerful way to use AI from what I found as well, is it's kind of like you're saying, you get that outside perspective in some
Yeah.
sense, and it
Yeah.
reinforces a little bit of your thinking. Or maybe for myself, I'm like, that is the coolest idea ever. I have to write about that. But then when
Hmm.
I look at, okay, wait, this is actually matched my brand or my values or it,
Yeah.
whatever, AI can help me see, okay, actually, wait a sec, that's I need to either change the angle or just ditch the idea because it's not going to be helpful or relevant. So
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I think that's a powerful way to use that. Kind of piggybacking off of this as well. As you've been creating content and posting it online, what are some of the biggest things that you've learned about content creation and just brand building in general?
Yeah. Um, Writing handwritten things, like whatever you do, you should have some part in that writing process. I especially practice this on LinkedIn, but like either I'm writing a blurb of my thoughts or I do a lot of talking to my phone and to my computer.
Yep,
I
I do that too.
start everything. Like I will not let this AI agent give me the final output. No way. Either it comes from my day and my ideas, my thoughts I'm having right now. I put in a blurb and let's like define some and make sure it aligns here. Or I have an agent ask me questions to pull out a story to get me thinking. But it is always like it has to be genuinely you. It is working off of information that already exists in the world. And the only way to make that original is to have your own brain at work. I'm sure like we hear this all the time and tons of people preach this. Another thing is that these like a lot of these platforms really are just mirrors in that you get out of it kind of what you put into it. Like I've been posting on Instagram for probably a year now, twice a week. But honestly, I go on there, I scroll, I don't interact, I don't save, I don't repost, and I leave the app. I ghost the app after I post. And that's probably why my account hasn't done much. I know that's why. But on LinkedIn, on the other hand, I'm this is just a fresh start for me. I'm so excited to try this new platform that's not so saturated. And truly, you build these like small conversations just bit by bit with people. And yes, try be as genuine as possible. Do not use AI to go in comment sections. Like be very specific too about what you interact with, because what you interact with is you showing the algorithm who you are. And therefore, by interacting with your niche and being like disciplined in that, you are training the algorithm to, push your stuff to that same kind of people. So I that's really important. But it takes time. Everyone's journey is different. Like one viral post can seriously change someone's entire projection for the year, in terms of success. Don't shoot for virality though. Just be consistent. I've been consistent and I've never had a viral post. I've never, but I see the dial moving little by little each week. It went from 2,900 impressions to 32,100 impressions this week. Just hold on to that. Rinse and repeat. Discipline.
It's so important. I think I always think about, and I think I commented this on Taylor's post who I had on the podcast the other day as well. Is I always think about this that stupid guy in the mine meme where he's like stops right before the diamonds and turns around and leaves. Have you seen
Yes.
that one?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that thing lives
Yeah.
rent free in my head all the time. And I
Yeah.
think about that a lot, where one of the most overhyped pieces of advice that just irks me a little bit is that you just be consistent, bro. All you have to do is just be consistent. And like that is really important. Don't get me wrong, but like if you're consistently
Mhm.
doing the wrong things, it's not going to matter what you do,
Not gonna work.
right?
Yeah.
But
Adjust.
that
Yeah.
discipline is really important because if you're not staying in the ring long enough, you're not going to win anyway. Like by default,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is really, really important.
Seek out the signs of small success, but if you're not seeing them, make small adjustments. Like test. See how this goes this week. Absolutely.
100%. Okay, well, as we kind of start to wrap up here, Sid, I'm curious, what are kind of your goals or things that you really want to achieve, your dreams for the next 5 years? Like, what are you really trying to do?
In the next 5 years, I really want to start getting on stage more as a speaker. That is being a keynote speaker is like kind of one of my biggest dreams because when I'm up on stage, I just have this energy that I can't explain. Like it's like I become a whole new Syd, even though I'm still authentic Syd. Like, wow. It is a privilege to be up there, but I know being up there could make a real impact for lots of people. And so that's one really big dream of mine. And I work with that industry for my work, for some of my marketing materials. So I'm slowly picking up and learning, and I've positioned myself to be in a place that success in that world won't be far off because I'm learning from their mistakes as we go here. So that's one big dream. And another one is to grow an audience on LinkedIn, like a decent actual audience. And to maybe in 5 years, hopefully I can wrap up the third short film in my series, which Windbound is the series. It's all about the kite wind life. And this first film I've done. Each film, I live the stories, and it's why I can tell them so well. This next one is about injury. I've already had 2 incredible interviews with 2 incredible people. And then the third one is going to be about more so the travel aspect of it. So I'm hoping that I can keep up the motion in the short film world as well.
That's so cool. I'm so excited to follow that journey and to see all these cool things because, I mean, I have no doubt that you're gonna be able to do all 3 of those things easily.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably within
absolutely.
the next like year or 2.
Yeah, they're tangible.
100%.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Abs-
be. Oh, I'm so excited to see that. That's fantastic. Okay, last question I have for you, or I guess it's not really a question, it's more of a request. I want you to imagine that right now you're not on the call with me, you're sitting across from you 3 years ago, or 4, however much you want to put, right? And in 60 seconds, I want you to tell that past version of Syd something important that you feel like she needs to know, or that you wish someone had told her, or something along those lines.
mhm. It will be hard and you will live through incredible lows, but every darkness comes with light, every rainbow comes with a storm. And you can't live through these expecting them to be over or hoping that they're going to be over tomorrow. You have to have relentless acceptance to your circumstances and your situations that come your way. This life is filled with challenges, but they are not happening to you. They are happening for you to grow and find a new path and become and grow into the person that you're meant to be. And through these challenges, you will be a much better person. Without them, what's the point? What's the point of a simple straight line? What's the point? There's no story there. That's what I would tell younger Syd.
I love that. That's so good. I like the straight line thing. That's fantastic. If I can take the liberty of speaking for past Syd, I think she'd probably tell present Syd that she's incredibly proud of you and that you're doing some seriously epic stuff and to keep going. Because you are doing some really cool stuff. And I've so enjoyed our conversation today, especially just for how energized it's made me feel. You bring so much energy to this conversation and just that passion and that drive of like, yeah, I can make this work. I could do all of these amazing things, and actually, what's going to stop me, huh? Nothing, you know? And so
Yeah,
I love the insights. I love the energy that you brought, and I really appreciate you making some time to come on and chat with me today.
absolutely. I appreciate you having me here, Derek.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We are going to hit the stop recording button now. Peace out,
Sweet.
everybody.